I don't know why I had to whistle that. Just a little musical accompaniment for my little walking skeleton here. Today we're going to do walk cycle. So let's break it down. I'm using the panning scene from another exercise, but let's take a look at how I've built my walking skeleton guy. He is a combination of old school and new school, if you will, in that I am using the bone tool, but unlike other tutorials where they may showing the whole armature, which is the whole sort of bone structure, head, shoulders, arms, legs, hips, all in one, I actually like to break it down. So let's go into my symbols, and this is the setup for me to do my walk cycle. I've got, let me zoom out a little bit here, I've got a drawing which I found on the internet of all places, and it shows 8 positions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and here's the 9th one. The 9th one is actually the same as the first one, more or less. 8 positions of a walk cycle. We've got where the foot touches down, where it crosses, where it moves to the back. So they call it contact, crossover. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that guide to help us do our walk cycle. So here's how we go. We're going to set up our leg, and our drawing guide is behind it. Some people also say use the wireframe, but I find that a little difficult, so I'm going to turn that off, although I did see something interesting that I hadn't seen before. And this is just a drawn leg. It's not a symbol. These are all just paintbrush drawings. The line tool is a little dicey. So I'm going to select my leg, and hopefully it's going to cooperate with me. I've got it on a baseline. Notice I've pulled out, with my rulers on, I've pulled out a guideline for the baseline, and I've also pulled out a vertical line, and I'm going to keep the hip joint on that vertical line. So I've got this setup, and I've got the drawing. I had the vertical line, which I've got hidden right now. And I'm only hiding it because the bone tool doesn't like it when we first go to draw the bones if there's a guide on. So I'm hiding that. I'm going to draw my bones, and they're going from hip to knee, more or less, from knee to heel, and break the foot into 2 parts. So heel to the ball of the foot, and ball of the foot to the toes. Alright, so now I've got some bones. I can go ahead and turn my guide back on. And here comes the magic. I'm going to now pull my bones into more or less the position of this leg. Now, we're not going to get into the fancy restriction stuff. We're just going to do the basic walk cycle. And you can see that my leg isn't exactly the same height as the drawing, but that's okay. I'm actually going to move this down. And so we'll probably be a little bit lower than center on the hip as we go along. You'll notice too that my leg is now an empty keyframe, and the armature has replaced it. So let's say we're going to take about 35 frames. We'll maybe have to trim this down. I'm going to just go ahead and add frames. I'm using the F5, and I can get rid of that leg layer. So what I'm going to do is every 3 frames, so 1, 2, 3, I'm going to slide the drawing over, holding the shift key, and line up the hip more or less with the vertical line. So it looks like I need to move it a little bit further over, and you can see it's quite a bit lower than our first one. So now on our armature, I'm going to select it, and I'm using the black arrow tool. I'm going to move it so that the foot is flat on the ground again. And I'm probably going to have to modify it a little bit because we need to move lower. So lower, 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 lower. Again, a little lower than the drawing, center point. And I'm keeping it on that vertical. That's kind of important because we don't want it to go, we want that hip joint when we make it a walking on the stage to be in place. Now sometimes the lovely tool in all its wisdom does funky things like that where it makes it disappear. So just find a close enough pose And that looks pretty good. So my foot is more or less flat on the ground, toes more or less straight. And you will see that it does some strange things. Hopefully we won't notice that when it's moving. And it adds a keyframe to my armature. So let's just keep moving along with that. I'm going to click on my background image again, drag it so that the hip is on that vertical again, move 3 frames, 1, 2, 3. And this is just a guesstimation in terms of timing. Move that armature up. And you can see I've already got the keyframe before I've even moved the leg. And this is where it's going more towards the back. Drag my foot back, kind of a straight leg. And it looks like I need to move up a little bit. All right, pretty good. 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. Drag the drawing. I guess I'll go walk you through the whole thing. I went a little too far with my keyframe. That'll be good. Armature goes up a little more, so we're still on the upswing here. And at this point, if we look at our drawing behind our guide, our leg is going to be up on its toes. So this is why you want to have a separate joint for that toe joint. And once again, we're getting our drawing kind of coming and going. Hopefully it'll behave itself. It wants to have a little straighter leg. I don't know if we're going to get away with that or not. Let's try. Straighter leg. Pull it back. Bend the toes. All right, that looks pretty good. So already we've got the first part of our walk. 1, 2, 3. We have a few more poses to go. Drag. Hip on the line, move our armature down. We're still following the white leg. Don't get fooled and start to follow the other leg if you're using this drawing. Don't change legs in the middle or you're going to have a very strange walk. Now you can modify, change these a little bit. For example, if you change the timing at all, you may end up with a skip or a hop or some other type of movement that is not just a plain walk. This particular drawing is quite bouncy. He's got quite a bit of up and down motion, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3. Of course, if you make your own, you can customize that. Dragging the image over. This is where we're way down again, so I'm going to be moving that whole armature down, bending our leg. I'll bend it first, get it in the general position, move it down. So I will include this file for you. For those of you on YouTube, I will just put a link to it in the comments in just a minute. 2 more poses and we should be good. So we're going to have a little bit of extra. Main drawing, drag it. And this time our leg is coming forward. And it's also going to be up higher again because we're on the other side. The weight is now on the other hip. Straighten out that toe a little bit. I may have to go back and straighten the other toe too. I don't know how I did that. All right, let's go back up. Up, 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 up. Little music always helps. There we go. And yes, where it crosses over itself here, we get a big omit. Nothing we can do about that right now. 1, 2, 3. Our last drawing. And our hips are going to be higher again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't matter what I'm counting for. I don't know. I'm just passing the time. Yep, I went too much. And let's drag that foot. You can kind of see it in this drawing. It's hidden a little bit. Toes are normal. And we will go to a 4th frame and slide that over so that we should be back in the original position. Straighten out that foot, kind of straighten out the leg. I don't like it perfectly straight. And let's go down, heel touching the ground more or less. Again, our leg is not exactly like their leg. That's okay. So sure enough, we have frames left over, and I'm going to just remove them by highlighting and doing Shift F5. Notice that I'm doing them the two layers separately. That's because for some reason the armature doesn't like it when you try and move them both at the same time. So yes, the armatures can be a little bit finicky. So let's hide our guide for the moment, even though we won't see it if we were to publish. And there's our leg, more or less pivoting on that vertical line. But obviously it doesn't look much like a walking creature yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create yet another symbol, and I'm going to make sure that these are graphics for the time being. And I'll call this legs together. And let's open up legs together. And what I want to do is bring in, so now we're in the symbol legs together. I'm going to bring in two instances of my animated leg. They don't really have to be on separate layers because all the animation is occurring inside of that leg symbol. And just so that I can see which one is which, I'm going to make one of them a tiny bit darker by just lowering the brightness on it. And of course I have the one that's in front, so let's make it a little darker, and then we'll send it to back. I'm going to click on it and modify, arrange, send to back. Okay, so now we have our two legs, and the animation was 22 frames long, so I'm going to go out to frame 22, and if I scrub over it now, I'm going to have kangaroo legs. And you can see that we have one disappearing frame in there that we'll fix in a minute. Okay, so one of the nice things about graphics as opposed to movie clips is that we have this looping option. And so what I can do is just choose either leg and keep it on loop, but change the first frame to the halfway point. So for 22 frames, I'm going to change this to 11. And you'll see immediately, excuse me, that my legs are now opposite. And we've got the beginnings of our walking. Now that I've got the two legs walking, if I were to go out to my scene and just place those in, you'd start to see that we've got, we can have a sense of our little guy walking. So there's my walking scene. We get those leg bones together. Just place them in the scene here. And right now they don't fit in. They're a little bright and they're they're a little big, but let's just take a look at it to see what we've got already. Test scene. And we've already got a sense of our legs walking. And that may be as far as you get with it. Now you can see there's a little bit of a hiccup. So I've got something strange going on. What that is the looping of my movie. My background is looping seamlessly, but chances are my scene is not a multiple of 22. So let's see. Sure enough, it's at 60. So if we make it out here to 66 frames, again, let's do the F5. Let's see what all we need. Let's get this up. All right, so we need almost everything. Select everything, 66, but we don't want, I'm holding down the Command key to remove the ones that we don't want. And now I should be able to hit F5 and include all of those things out longer. Let's test the scene now. And we should not have a hiccup. It should be continuous. The option would have been, of course, to change my legs to movie clip on the fly, on the stage, but this is just so that you understand better what's going on with the timeline. So in looking how I put the rest of the character together, it's a combination of a little bit of drawing. Here's my basic legs. Actually, this is the symbol that has everything in it. There's my legs. But let's take a look at the arm too, which is essentially another armature. We could go inside and take a look at it. It's a simple armature that just goes back and forth, and the hand sways a little bit. So I bring that in, and essentially I do the same thing. I have the arm swaying, and when I bring in the other arm and maybe darken it back a little bit. That one doesn't look like I did darken it back a little bit. And we take a look at where it starts. If I look at the looping, the front arm starts, I'm having a hard time getting just one of them. The front arm apparently starts normally, and the back arm, let's hide that other front arm. The back arm starts on frame 12, so it probably should start on frame 11 because we have, otherwise we're going to get a really wacky animation. So the arm swings back and forth, that's the back arm. Let's add the front arm. So now we've got arms and legs. And I've added a bottom torso, which you're not going to see very much of. That's more just insurance for if the shirt goes awry or if the legs go awry, but we've got a lot going on there. And then also added the top torso, which is sort of a shirt looking thing. And I've just made a little bit of a gradient on that, if you can see it. And it too has its own motion. So each of these pieces parts have their own motion. If we look inside the torso part, it's doing a little bit of a wave, nothing fancy. And then the head. Let's add that head, that lovely skull head. And now we've got our entire walking skeleton. And all that's left to do is to put it into the scene and test the scene. There you have it, a little walking skeleton. All right, enough of that. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a shot.